Now, sometimes back, and we'll play the news bite in just a bit, President William Ruto now came out publicly and said the only reason why they had to part ways with Rigathi Gachagua was because Rigathi Gachagua was a petty thief. Now that was a very interesting revelation because it was one of the few snippets of when President William Ruto has directly talked or addressed political statements towards Rigathi Gachagua. We'll play that news bite in a bit. Now quickly, in a political correspondence, Rigathi Gachagua did not spare President William Ruto. While in Narok, just before, of course, he did his other rally yesterday in the Roysambu area, where he gave a lot of instructions, and the DCP was overwhelmingly there. While now in those both the Narok and also in the Roysambu area, he also had his field day with President William Ruto. So let's start with that DCP rally in Roysambu. Or first, of course, let's start with the statements that were made by President William Ruto while in Garissa, and then we pull up the responses that came both in Roysambu and of course in the Narok area. If this is the first time you're interacting with our channel, please hit the subscribe button so that these stories do not escape you.
Nimesikia watu wengine wengi wanajaribu kunipatia mawaidha, sijui rais hangeenda, sijui rais angefanya kazi ingine. Wewe fanya hiyo kazi ingine, mimi nakuja kufanya ya kazi ya hawa vijana. Na yule ambaye anajaribu kuniambia kwamba nifanye kazi ingine ni mtu idler. Wewe ni mtu idler, huna kazi ya kufanya. Kazi yako ni kumangamanga tu barabarani. One time, azongo, sijui nini. Alafu wewe, you have the audacity kuja kunipatia lecture ama kuja kunipatia mawaidha. Wewe unanipatia. Kwa hivyo vijana wa Kenya, mimi nataka niwaambie, I want to tell the young people of Kenya, for a very long time, we did not have a plan on how to deal with hundreds of thousands, millions of young people who get out of our education system. We did not pay enough attention. We were not deliberate. We were not intentional. And that is why today, matters of job creation, matters of empowerment of the young people of Kenya are central to my administration. We not only have an intentional plan, we are deliberate about its delivery. We now have 4 deliberate, whether it is in the, there will be those who have skills. We are going to help them to make sure that they get certificates so that they can look for jobs and they can be engaged. There are those other entrepreneurs who require mentorship, who require capacity building. We are going to support them so that they can do business within communities, with the county government, with the national government, and create a situation where more young people, women, single mothers, widows can participate in the economy of Kenya by doing business in different fields. Kwa hivyo tutashirikiana pamoja. Leo mimi niko hapa, nitakuwa Wajia na Mandera kesho, kwa sababu mambo haya ni ya muhimu. Kufikia kesho, vijana 1,123 watakuwa wamepata pesa hii ya nyota by tomorrow. And then we will move to phase 2, and then we will move to the other phases, because we want to carry as many young people in Kenya as possible as we go forward. Nimeona ndugu yangu Aden Duale amesema kwa kirefu. Mimi nataka nikwambie my friend Aden Duale, watu wa Kiingereza wanasema don't argue with a fool. People will not know the difference. Yani usijibizane na mtu mjinga. Watu watakosa kujua nani ni nani. Let's not waste our time. Sisi, we have an agenda for this nation.
That's how the president finished his speech in Garissa. He called on CS Duale, told CS Duale not to argue with a fool because watu watajua nani ni nani. So from the presidential angle, of course, it's as they have always maintained, the united opposition's end is of course little in brains. And when he means a fool, of course, you can let us know who you think the president is talking about in the comment section. So while this is happening, a few days later, this is also what happens in Roysambu, and when the former deputy president takes to the podium, this is what he said.
Mimi nataka tukubaliane watu ya Roysambu, tukifukuza Kasongo tufukuza wasaliti wote wa jamii, si ndio? Wale wote wamesaliti jamii yetu, wamesaliti watu ya Nairobi, wakianzwa na huyu gavana anaitwa Sakaja aende nyumbani, si ndio? Huyu Sakaja ni one term, si one term. Sakaja ni one term, si one term. Wewe Sakaja ulikuja kwangu unalia machozi, nikakusaidia, nikaambia watu ya mlima wakupigia kura hapa Nairobi, wakakupigia. Kufika pale mkashikana na Kasongo, ukaanza kuumiza watu wa Kulima Market, kuumiza wachuuzi, kuumiza wafanyabiashara. Wewe na Kasongo ni one time, mwende nyumbani kabisa. Harambee! Harambee! Tumekubaliana watu wetu. Unajua makosa nilifanya na munisamehe. Nilienda harusi na gari ya mtu mwingine, nikaenda kufika mtoni tukaambiwa tushuke. Sasa tumerevuka, tumetengeneza gari yetu ya kutafuta serikali, chama chetu, chama cha DC. Wacha nione watu ya DCP, watu ya DCP, watu ya DCP. Harambee! Harambee! Mimi nataka nitangaze hapa Roysambu, mtu yeyote anataka kiti ya MP wa Roysambu ama MCA lazima akuje na chama cha DC. Wangapi wanakubali DCP? Pia hapa Nairobi tutasimamisha gavana na chama cha DCP. Tumekubaliana na hizi vitu zingine ya seneta, women rep, MP, tutaongea na Kalonzo, tutaongea na wengine, tukubaliane vile tutajipanga, si ndio? Tumekubaliana, lakini kiti cha governor lazima DCP itakuwa na candidate katika jijini Nairobi. Harambee! Harambee! Neguo dwaito. Neguo. Noto bado tuimene. Sisi wacha nimwambie watu ya Kanairo na watu ya Mlima Kenya, nguvu yetu ni umoja wetu. Tukikubali Kasongo atugawanye atatumaliza, si ndio? Tutakaa kitu kimoja. Na Jaibi Muturi yako hapa, tumesikizana, Waembu, Wameru, Wakikuyu, sisi tuko kitu kimoja. Harambee! Harambee! Ya mwisho walikuja wakatupiga pale kanisani Wetima, wakapiga akina mama, wakapiga watoto, walitaka kutuua. Wewe William Ruto, tunataka hiyo watu washitakiwe. Wewe usirudie ile tabia yako ya kuchoma wamama na watoto vile ulichoma wamama na watoto kanisani Kiambaa mwaka wa 2008. Ashindwe asishindwe, aende asiende. Ya mwisho nimeona Murkomen akisema ati wajumbe ndio wameleta goons. Wewe Murkomen, wacha tukwambie, mambo ya goonism ilianza saa ile umekuwa CS wa Interior. Wewe you are the most reckless and irresponsible CS for Interior since independence. Na huyu Murkomen, siku nilitoka United States ndio alilipa wajumbe
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear like that is the reply that's the reply that has come from the DCP end as well. Now, the Kenyan political scene is heating, and it's heating up so quick. It sitting up ahead of 2027. If you keep replying rhetorics, then you create more drama in the political scene. And so it seems that from the UDA camp, President William Ruto is trying to make sure that he will listen to all critics and respond in his own ways, but not respond in the public stage. Because previously, towards the end of 2025, you saw how things happened. Whenever he picked up on the Kalonzo issue, the next thing that was happening is that the United Opposition was of course responding to him. And so whereas the United Opposition came up with all that plan of 2026, of course we detailed in the beginning of the year, of trying to offer alternatives to what President William Ruto's government is doing, while also trying to respond to what the president is of course saying, the president is realizing that to give that particular platform of response and of course of criticism, it begins from his speech. And so what he's doing is that he's cutting his speech when it comes to the United Opposition end. But it seems like it's so itchy that he can't cut it completely, to the extent that when we played that particular news bite, he still seemed to be offended with the statement that is coming from that camp, specifically the statement that has repeatedly been said by JB Muturi, that the NOTA program really does not have to see the president cross-cutting counties to go give it to the people. He could actually come up with a person within the ministry to oversee that, or he could actually have that money wired to the youth through e-money, because everyone right now have phones. But the president now maintains that if those people are speaking like that, feel like the president has another job to do, wao ende wafanye hiyo kazi. Yeye, he feels this is the job to do right now, and he will keep doing it. So a lot of statements have been made about all these things: the NOTA program, the starvation in the country, the drought, issues like that, education system, SHA. But political priorities is where they are put, and you cannot really question much what a political leader decides to do with their political time. Now, in this other aspect of the United Opposition, Rigathi Gachagua, you see, is also championing now for his own party. Says in Roysambu, they love candidates. In the Nairobi area, he's promising that a DCP party candidate must be in the gubernatorial seat. This is playing well for James Gakuya, of course, who is a close ally of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and has been seen repeatedly alongside Rigathi Gachagua as a hopeful of the 2027 gubernatorial seat. I don't know where this puts Babu Owino and his influence in the region. If he's supposed to go for the gubernatorial seat, he's allegedly in the opposition, but some section of the United Opposition who are not part of his or their opposition is also fronting a candidate in Nairobi. It's a conversation that is hard. And weird enough, Rigathi is rather saying that for the rest of the seats, he's going to discuss with Kalonzo whether to give them to DCP or to Wiper. So he's not going to discuss it with Martha, he's not going to discuss it with Matiang'i, so of course not going to discuss it at all with JB Muturi, leave alone with Natembea and Eugene Wamalo. Is going to discuss it with Kalonzo, and they're going to see how to divide the county. Let me not read much into it, but that statement has an off to it, because it seems like now the entire voter pattern of Nairobi is dependent on Kalonzo and of course Rigathi Gachagua. Let me know in the comment section maybe if I'm reading too much into it or what that meant. So while he's consolidating this support basis, he's also primarily saying that if you are a member of the Mountain and you're defending Kindiki's position in the 2027 Ruto's arrangement, then he's also admonishing you, saying that at one point members of the Mountain had a deputy president that was elected by the people, and according to Rigathi Gachagua, of course, was a very strong man. And what did they do? They discarded that particular deputy president for Ruto's favorite. And so it feels like this recent call that of course we also detailed here, the People's Mirror, you can find it in one of our stories, where the backyard of Kindiki Kithure was coming together to support his position in 2027 arrangement. Statements were made by the governor of Tharaka Nithi County, Honorable Mudomi Njuki. Statements were also made by Cecilia Mbarire, the chairperson of the UDA party. They were saying that Kindiki's position is solid into 2027. Now Rigathi is saying that is madness. Is admonishing those governors, saying that they should have defended that position when they had an elected deputy president. So this is going to happen. This is happening. We are taking a look at what is really coming much out of it, as the DCP party is gearing themselves, bringing bringing in Moha there. Moha, of course, was part of this rally to become now the governor in Mombasa, bringing in another candidate to replace Babu Owino in Embakasi East should Babu go for bigger aspirations. The DCP party is also now trying to front themselves as a very strong position, of course, to face President William Ruto's team in 2027. The ODM party is yet to get into this negotiating table. Let's see what that happens. So this picture actually was in the social media space, and people are just saying out of these numbers, you see that in influence right now, because politics is perception and numbers, these individuals up there control votes than even these ones down here, and that perception is something that matters. But know that the DCP party and the ODM stronger, older faction, pardon me, have been running this particular rallies for quite some time, and so the numbers or the likes or the perception is used to them. There's always the bias of something that is new in the market, and so when the top rallies were also held, it's new, it's fresh, people will of course check and react. But let's keep this trend for quite some time and see how many votes or how many people in numbers are Sifuna and Babu pulling, and how many people in numbers are the united opposition pulling. Of course, the presidential side, you cannot say much because people are dressed into colors and put under a tent. You don't know whether those are genuine or not. But how many numbers are they really pulling on the public limelight? Because those numbers really mean a lot in the negotiating table of either ends come 2027. Here are the People's Mirror, ladies and gentlemen. We keep our lenses fixed in all those particular stories to bring them to you as they unfold. Thank you so much for keeping it here, and if this is your first time interacting with our channel, please hit the subscribe button.